name's Freya.
Hi, I'm Alex.
I'm Kathleen Cox.
I'm Stuart Guerin.
I'm Martin Johnson.
I'm Caitlin DiBiase.
I'm Sean McCard.
I'm Sla.
Sam Johnson.
Kind of if this was a recipe, because I broke my project down to what I wanted.
You know, when you're doing design, you sort of have to, it's like, okay, no, I just have to commit to something right now, and then just think about it practically rather than whether or not it's a good thing to do.
It helps you understand the consequences of what's happening as well. So say if you're in relation to people, if this happened then how would that person feel? And if this didn't happen, how would they feel?
It breaks it down so you think about it very, very specifically.
And make you put down on paper what you've got in your head but you haven't actually formulated or articulated.
To be really honest and just break it down, like bone simple, I think there's a huge value in that.
Because it kind of forces you to not kind of float around being like, oh, I kind of wanted to do this. It's like, well, if you wanted to do that, how else do you want it to do it? Is it better this way or this way? Because you have the option.
I mean, like, if I was to get my sketchbook here, like, it gets so complex, doesn't it? Like, so quickly, it just gets ridiculous. I mean, and you're thinking about all these different things you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and it just helps bring it right back. I mean, you've got all that notes compared to just like that. I mean, I'm stapling that into there.
You don't tend to actually pull out a physical interaction and really work on it. I think you see it as part of like one whole journey, which is all right for like saying what you want, but like in terms of working through the nitty gritty, like working in full user journeys doesn't really give you that. But this is sort of like pulling it apart and like breaking it down into bite-sized chunks.
I've been doing a bit of storyboarding in my notebook, but that never makes the concept any more precise. It never pins anything down. I think it's because I focus more on the sort of emotional things rather than the actual concept.
Help me figure out how it feeds into a system or a system blueprint almost. I can analyze each interaction the object is having with itself as opposed to the user, how that feeds into the rest of it.
It makes me understand how the program works, but also I understand what I want the thing to do. It makes everything more structured and clearer.
It's easier to visualise. This is me just trying to figure out how it'll work, whereas with this I can see one rule is if the temperature is increased then activates the camera.
Like articulating if you want sound or buttons or your emails like that, it's all kind of, yeah, it makes it clear.
Like, it creates this kind of branching thought, which, especially when you're trying to analyze the functional object, I think that helps.
It's more like, if this happens, that will happen, and if that happens, that will happen. It's sort of structured. Whereas in my notebook, it's just like, oh, what if this happens? And then, oh, what if this happens? And there's, the conclusion bit.
I think the biggest advantage of the paper tool is for designers to make it visual. It visualises the thought process in a way that they're used to working in. So for the first time for the product designers who have not really done any coding before, it lets them see in a kind of designery way that if I do this, then that happens, and then that. So they're thinking through their interaction in a similar way that they would do for a storyboard if they had to sketch it or make a video prototype or something. This is allowing them to step through the interaction in a visual way that they can see it, and because it's not using coding language up front, it allows them to test the ideas and move them around and change them very quickly without getting hung up on the semantics of the language, the coding language. It helps me see what they're trying to do without me guessing or trying to encourage them. So from that point of view, yeah, it helps a lot.
The cards and the diagrams works quite well is because it makes tangible something which quite often is very abstract. And I've noticed that from the difference that with what you've done with them is that they had something which was tangible, and the diagrams on paper and so forth, and there was a way, it was easier for them to actually grasp what they were trying to achieve and how they were going to achieve it, and what was needed to in order to achieve. the interaction that they were after. So, this is not new. This is not rocket science.
Exactly.
But what it does, it's an assemblage of things that were not together before, and that what makes it really, So there's, I see this as more like a curatorial sort of platform, which obviously brings together a series of tools and a series of ideas that perhaps students have used independently, and now they all come together under this framework that you've created with your project. So I guess it's tighter and neater, and it makes obviously sense.